Now your Bibles are open with me, please, to Ecclesiastes chapter number 4. I continue using words and phrases that I find in the King James Bible that have made their way into the common vernacular. And today, two heads are better than one. The text says in verse number 9, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. Two are better than one. Now there's an explanation for this given in verse number 10. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Better is a poor and wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. Now, having read those scriptures on the Bright Spot Hour today, I'd like to spend the next week or two doing an exposition of Ecclesiastes chapter number 4. When you and I read the book of Ecclesiastes, much like the book of Proverbs, we are not necessarily reading a book of covenants that if you'll do this, then I'll do that. But rather, we are reading one of the greatest treatises on the law of sowing and reaping. There are certain things that are set in motion by our actions and our conduct. Generally, when I do one thing, I will receive a result at the end of that. If I say something, I will generally get a response. And after some time, you begin to discern that the response you receive is in kind to what you have said. That's why the Bible is very clear when it says that a soft answer turneth away wrath. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver. So it's not necessarily a book of covenants and promises, but rather dealing with the matter of the law of sowing and reaping. If I sow in a certain way, then I'm going to reap in like kind as I have sown. The Apostle Paul said, if we sow to the Spirit, we shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. If we sow to the flesh, then in like kind we shall of the flesh reap corruption. When you and I see Proverbs and Ecclesiastes as the matter of the law of sowing and reaping, I think the books become much more relevant in my life and in yours. This matter of the law of sowing and reaping is something that is not often dealt with in my hearing of preaching and in my following of political thought. The area of the law of sowing and reaping is never dealt with. We have an open border. I mean, we have an open border with Texas, Arizona, and Mexico. And millions now, multiplied millions of illegal aliens have flooded into the United States in the last year and a half. And these are not the best and the brightest of Central and South America. They've emptied out their prisons and turned them loose. We have terrorists that are flying into Mexico from the Middle East and then coming across the border. And we are sowing at a very rapid rate. And there is going to be a reaping, a result of what has happened with this open border matter. Now, I understand that there are some men that will say, Brother Ben, you're all wrong. Where is the love of Christ and your compassion upon these men? God is sending us the mission field. We're not going to the mission field. God is sending us the mission field. Okay, I understand what you're saying. But number one, I don't see any churches of any denominational stripe that are effective in winning thousands and thousands of these illegals to the Lord. My next question is, when an illegal alien is saved by the grace of God and they are truly born again, then shouldn't they understand that they have violated our law and return to their country. And the same argument could be made. They should return to their country as an evangelist, and try to reach their people in their country with the gospel of Christ before they ever come over here. You're going to have a very difficult time when you start with the premise of violating a law. And even in the case of evangelism, I had a comment made to me a year ago maybe, about a Hispanic church that was here in our area, and the comment was made, most of the people in our church are illegals. And they go to church every Sunday, go to Sunday school, and I think that many of them are truly born again. But they all understand they're illegal, so they're all in violation of the matter of the laws of our land. And that presents to me a real conundrum. That presents to me a real contradiction. You see, the law of sowing and reaping, I don't hear anybody talking about that. The printing presses in Washington are running wide open. I mean, they are running around the clock, printing off $100 bills. And then we wonder why gasoline is so high, and why I had to buy a bale of straw the other day to spread on a real estate project. And on the ground, we're trying to sow it and grow grass. And I paid $9 for a bale of straw. Not a bale of hay, a bale of straw, to put on the ground and let go back into the earth. $9. And the reason that bale of straw is $9 is because the printing presses are running 24 hours around the clock at the Federal Reserve, printing up money that is backed by nothing, fiat monopoly money. And at some point, we're going to become the Weimar Republic when a loaf of bread is $40 and the money is worthless. There's no value to the money at all, the law of sowing and reaping. Well, I find that when I read Proverbs, he that becometh a surety for a stranger shall smart for it. That aligns itself with what Paul the Apostle said when he said, lay hands suddenly on no man. You rush into an agreement without reading the fine print. As one preacher friend of mine said one time, he said, when you sign a contract, the big print gives it to you, and the small print takes it away. And you become a surety for a stranger, and you'll smart for it. Then there's another thing that I find when I arrive in the book of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, and to some degree the Song of Solomon, but not as much, primarily Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, and I understand and learn the human condition. And if I understand the human condition, the condition of human life, and the way life is here, and the unfairness of life, and I read here in the Ecclesiastes that time and chance happeneth to all men. Now you and I understand the providence of God and the providential working of God. But none of us would deny that there have been times that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there have been other times in my life when I have been in the right place at the right time. And I could not have orchestrated either event. It was beyond my power. It was outside my ability to orchestrate either event. There have been times that I've been in the right place at the right time, and there have been times when I have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and there was nothing I could do in either event to orchestrate those. In the final analysis, I think even here in the Old Testament Scriptures, man must learn to live by faith. Man must learn, as Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 2:24, this also I saw that it was from the hand of God. And at some point we're going to have to resign our will and resign our thinking and dedicate that unto the will of God and the mind of God. We're going to have to give ourselves to the good providential hand of God. We're going to have to trust God and believe God to do the right thing by us and to do the right thing for us, because many of these matters truly they're just outside of us. They are outside of our ability to control and our purview. Now in Ecclesiastes chapter number 4, again, two are better than one. We have the phrase in the common vernacular, two heads are better than one. I think it'd be worthwhile for us to expound on the 4th chapter of Ecclesiastes. I think there's very much that you and I could learn from this. So I returned and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter. And on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. Wherefore I praise the dead, which are already dead, more than the living, which are yet alive. Yea, better is he than both they, which hath not yet been, the baby that is not yet been conceived or born, that hath not yet been, who hath not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. Again, I considered all travail and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit. The fool foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. And then Solomon says, and this sounds much like the book of Proverbs, better is an handful with quietness than both thy hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. What about verse number 1? Now, I don't have a martyr complex, and I don't want this chapter and exposition of this chapter to become depressing or oppressing. Not at all. But I did mention to you, and you're going to find this to be a true statement, that in this passage we have a revelation of the human condition. This is the matter of human life, the reality of life here in the flesh. This truly is the human condition. So I returned and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun. Now, this is stated after having read chapter number 3, and there Solomon talks about the weariness that is a part of life in this world and the labor that is a part of life in this world. Well, men today want to live life, but they want to live it without any labor. They want to live life, but they want to live it without any taxation. Taxation upon them, taxation upon their thinking, taxation upon their minds. They want, and I think that is the basis and the background of our whole welfare system, is not only a massive transfer of wealth from the so-called haves to the unproductive have-nots, but the whole idea that I can have something that's maintenance-free, I can have something that is labor-free. And yet in the same book of Ecclesiastes I read where Solomon says there is labor in all things. There is nothing that is maintenance-free. And you and I, over the course of our life, have much weariness, because in the course of our life we are going to be fraught with this matter of labor. There is much labor to be accomplished. Now, my time has gotten away from me on the program today, but the Lord willing, we will continue with this on the Bright Spot Hour on tomorrow.
You may write the Bright Spot Hour at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina,